Good morning, everybody. My name is Calvin, and today I'll be talking about the PBO Environment Hub, the Developer Hub, and all the different types of orgs that you as ISVs and developers will be using. As I mentioned, my name is Calvin. I am a ISV technical evangelist here at Salesforce. I've been at Salesforce for 4 years, and my role in this role is to help you partners and developers understand our ecosystem. Anything relating to our platform key technologies, to technologies about licensing and distribution, my job is to answer those type of questions. I work very closely with the partner account manager, some of which you may or may not have, and together we support you as a partner and give you guys a very full-fledged understanding of our ecosystem. My counterpart, Peter Martin, is unfortunately unable to be here today due to travel restrictions, but he helped very closely with this presentation and helped me do a lot of prep work for it. So let's dive right in. So this would not be a proper Salesforce DX presentation if I did not throw a mention to the forward-looking statement. Salesforce, as you know, is a publicly traded company, and today I may or may not be making forward-looking statements that pertain to the future of our products. So please make all your purchasing decisions solely based on what's currently available today. So that being said, let's talk about why I'm having this presentation in the first place. There's a bunch of confusion. There's a lot of confusion around what type of orgs to use and when to use each of them. For example, your customers, they use sandbox and production orgs. Sandbox orgs are used for staging and for testing purposes. And production, as you might know, is used for the actual running day-to-day operations of Salesforce. Just alone, your customers already use two different types of orgs. On top of that, you as ISVs use the PBO, the LMO, the Environment Hub, as well as the partner community to do your day-to-day business operations. And lastly, we haven't even talked about development and testing yet. Just for development and testing, we have DevHub, DX Scratch orgs, Dev orgs, packaging orgs, and even Trial Force orgs, adding more orgs to the confusion. So my job today is to tell you guys how to use each and every one of these orgs and when to use them. So let's talk about the agenda for today. First, I'm going to start off by talking about how you run your business. We're going to talk about the PBO, the LMA, as well as the COA. Then we're going to move on to talk about development and testing. In this step, we're going to talk about the Environment Hub, the Dev Hub, as well as different types of Scratch orgs. And then finally, we're going to talk about packaging and listing. In this step, we're going to talk about how namespaces are registered, how you use packaging orgs, and how you use these packaging orgs to submit for security review. And then we're going to talk about delivering trials, the TMO, the TSO, as well as templates. And finally, we're going to finish off this presentation with a quick wrap-up, and I'm going to give you additional resources to continue your learning. First things first, running your business. So the first thing I want to clarify is the difference between the partner community and the partner business org. These two different things are very different. However, a lot of confusion comes from the fact that a lot of our ISVs use the same login for both types of, for both websites. The partner community, you would log in through the partners.salesforce.com, and the partner community allows you to service your listing. You can access the publishing console through the partner community, as well as collaborate with other partners and ISVs through the education and collaboration channels. And then to throw things off, the Partner Business Org, or the PBO, allows you to run your ISV business. Inside of the PBO, you'll find the LMA, the COA, as well as the Environment Hub and Developer Hub. And the major confusion comes from the fact that both use the same exact login. The PBO, which is not showing up really well, allows you to access your, let's run this. Sorry about that. The PBO allows you to access your ISV business and allows you to do all the day-to-day operations that you need to build and distribute your applications. And again, you access the PBO through login.salesforce.com and the partner community through the partners.salesforce.com URL. So this chart is kind of a visual of how the PBO is split up. You can think of each of these horizontal bars as different types of applications that run within the PBO. The first two I want to talk about is the LMA and the COA. The LMA allows you to manage leads and licenses for your AppExchange offerings, whereas the COA allows you to create, submit, and track orders with Salesforce. I'll talk about the COA more in a second. The LMA. You access the LMA again through the PBO application. Again, the PBO is accessed through login.salesforce.com. And inside of the LMA application, you can manage your licenses. But in addition to managing just your licenses for your installed applications, you can also use the PBO to also keep track of your leads. There's an option inside of the publishing console that allows you to get leads from things like installs, things from like looking at test drives, as well as things like looking through your screenshots and your videos. All of these leads will get propagated directly inside of the LMA if you configure that. On the other hand, we also have the ability for you to track licenses within the LMA. After all, LMA does stand for the License Management Application. And as I mentioned earlier, licenses allow you to keep track of what types of, where your application is being installed and what types of orgs that they're being installed into. And in addition to that, the LMA also allows you to see contact information of your customers. Say, for instance, you guys have an urgent patch fix or a bug that needs to be pushed out, and you would like to know, your customers to know about that, you can use the LMA to find contact information to be able to reach out to your customers. And then furthermore, the LMA is also tied to the support console. This allows you to support cases directly into our partner support. And it basically allows you to have a one-stop shop for everything related to running your listings. And again, the LMA is linked very closely with the FMA, which stands for the Feature Management Application. I won't talk much about the FMA since it's kind of out of the scope of this presentation, but just know that the FMA allows you to turn on and off certain features that are related to your application. Moving on, let's talk about the COA. The COA is also tied in within, also found inside of the PBO. And the COA, on the other hand, allows you to submit orders, allows you to define contract terms. It also allows you to share revenue with us at Salesforce. Not all ISVs use the COA, only if you are a checkout partner. But just so that you guys know, the COA is also contained within the PBO, and you can find that directly within the PBO to manage your orders and submit revenue. So let's take a look at the LMA in action. And here you go. We have leads that are tied in directly with certain types of interactions within your listing. These get propagated directly inside of the LMA, and you can follow up on these leads. You can ask your clients why they decided to purchase your application, or even why they decided to look away and look at something else. The LMA allows you to follow up and really gives you a deep down level of and understanding of your customers. So let's talk about the second thing, development and testing. This is, after all, a developer experience, and I do want to spend a bit of time at DX to talk about development and testing pertaining to you ISVs. So this chart is kind of confusing, but let me walk you right through it. So take a look at the center. The center has the words Environment Hub, and Developer Hub. I'll cover each of those different types of orgs in a second. But just so you know, I want you to look at the center ring. The Environment Hub and Developer Hub allows you to do a lot of things. Among those things, it allows you to plan, allows you to code, and it allows you to build your application. These two types of orgs are very important in allowing you to do a lot of the day-to-day operations that you partners would need. And outside of things, the Environment Hub and Developer Hub also allows you to integrate your CLI automation for your build automation, for source control, as well as allowing you to integrate your IDEs and your Scratch orgs to work with development purposes. And on top of that, the Environment Hub can also spin up different types of orgs that allow you to do allow you to create orgs for sandbox testing, for performance testing, as well as UAT and staging as well. And finally, the Environment Hub also allows you to do packaging and streamlining the delivery to production in your customer orgs. I'll talk about those two in a second. But back to our chart again. Now we're going to talk about the bottom two, the Developer Hub and Environment Hub. Again, this chart shows you what is exactly contained inside of the PBO. We just talked about the LMA, as well as the COA, but we're going to move on and talk about the Developer Hub and the Environment Hub now. So the Developer Hub is also synonymously known as your your DX Scratchworks spinner upper. The Developer Hub allows you to authorize against SFDX, and it basically tells DX that you have the ability to spin up Scratch orgs. As a benefit to our partners, we allow every single partner to access SFDX through the Developer Hub. And I'll show you guys in a second how to turn that feature on. But just know that in this slide, the Developer Hub is included with your PBO by default, and it basically allows you to do source-driven development. SFDX is primarily started up from the command line, so you do need to authorize it with your Developer Hub to spin up your Scratch orgs, and in doing so allows you to automate your CLI, as well as allows you to develop and test with CI and CD, continuous integration and continuous delivery. And one of the things that I really want you to know about Developer Hub is the ability for you to use org shaping to kind of shape up your Scratch orgs. What is org shaping exactly? Well, org shaping allows you to turn on and off certain features that are related directly to your application. Say, for instance, you're developing a healthcare application. You need to turn on certain access to certain objects, as well as turn off some features, say, for instance, chatter. Traditionally, you would go in, and after you've spun up these Developer Hubs, or DE orgs, you would go into settings and turn them off manually, but that just takes too much time. So what we've done in Developer Hub is allow you to define your Scratch orgs in a Scratch orgs setting JSON file. And you can see on this on the right, you can see that you can enable certain features that are contained inside your DX Scratch orgs. And when you spin up these Scratch orgs, it'll pull the information from the configuration file, and it'll automatically spin up a Scratch org just the way you need it. So the Environment Hub, on the other hand, is somewhat different from the Developer Hub. The Developer Hub spins up DX Scratch orgs, whereas the Environment Hub is able to spin up actual orgs that are related to Salesforce production orgs. So the Environment Hub allows you to create test and demo orgs. You can create orgs such as Partner Enterprise Edition orgs. You can spin up orgs that allow you to do Professional Edition orgs. And I think Essentials Edition orgs are set for a future release. But just know that the Environment Hub allows you to spin up actual production-style orgs, whereas the Developer Hub is more geared for development kind of orgs. But a key thing that the Environment Hub is able to do that no other hub is able to do is that you can spin up packaging orgs. These orgs are used specifically for your packaging needs. And I'll show you guys in a second how to do that exactly. But just on the right, let me show you guys this chart. So you can see in the red is the business org, or the PBO. The business org is able to spin up DE orgs contained inside of your Developer Hub. But it's also able to spin up your beta packaging org, which then becomes to your golden package org. And these orgs, again, allow you to package, and they are spun up directly from the Environment Hub. So let me show that to you in a second. OK, so this is inside of the Environment Hub. And you can see that it's a little blank, but if you press on Create Org, you will first be able to select a certain purpose for your org. Say, for instance, you want to do test and demo, and you want to test your app inside of production. And in this dropdown, you're able to select what type of edition that you want your org to be. Say, for instance, you're selling to only Professional Edition orgs, you would select the Professional Edition. But say for instance, that you want to target a different segment of the market, and you want to target people that are only using the Enterprise Edition orgs. You can spin up, again, another Enterprise Edition org and see if your application works properly. And in this section, you can also specify an org name that is easy for you to remember. And you are also able to configure the admin users and certain parameters around the org. And the best thing about the Environment Hub is that it also uses SSO, which means that you can log in directly from the Environment Hub. You don't need to remember these logins and passwords anymore, because it's very cumbersome once you have 50 orgs going on. The Environment Hub allows you to have a single source for you to log in and go directly into these orgs without having to keep track of your individual passwords and whatnot. And since an audience member asked me earlier, how do I turn on the Developer Hub? you go into Setup. And there's a Developer Hub menu tucked in inside of the submenu here. And this basically allows you to enable Dev Hub by clicking on this checkbox right here. And once you do that, it will authorize and register a namespace and allows you to authorize SFDX to spin up Scratch orgs on your behalf. All right, now that we covered the first two topics, let's talk about the third one, packaging and listing. So your packaging org. Your packaging orgs are again spun up using Environment Hub, but your packaging orgs are very special. They're a type of org that only your Environment Hub can spin up. These packaging orgs allow you to register a namespace. In case some of you don't already know what a namespace is, a namespace basically allows Salesforce to keep track of what type of methods belong to your package. Say, for instance, you have a test class that's very generic called testclass.cls. It might be the same name as another test class that your customer has. There's no way for Salesforce to be able to tell those two types of classes apart, even though they have a different type of use case, but the naming could get confusing very easily. So what registering a namespace does is that it appends a prefix to your test class. Say, for instance, I work for Salesforce. You would do Salesforce. It would become Salesforce _test class.cls, and that basically allows us to tell which classes belong where, and they allow us to differentiate your classes from your partners, from your customers' classes to other partner classes that are installed inside of the same org. But just know that registering a namespace is very important, because once you've registered the namespace, you cannot change it anymore. So when you do this in this step, you want to make sure that this is the namespace that you want to fly with, because once you register the namespace, you can't change it for the duration of your application. You do it once and for all. But another feature that Partner Developer Edition orgs allow you to do is that they allow you to install new package additions. What does that mean exactly? When you install new package inside of your Partner Developer Edition packaging org, it gets linked directly to the App Exchange. This diagram is also kind of confusing, but let me take you through it really quickly. You can see your golden packaging org in the upper left-hand corner. And your golden package org is able to spin up test orgs for your testing purposes. Again, your application is installed inside of the golden packaging org, but it's also tied directly with the App Exchange. And you can see inside of the oval, it has two branches to it. And that means that your application is originating from your golden package org. It's associated with the App Exchange. And then it also gets pushed out to your customer orgs for distribution purposes. So this kind of explains why registering a namespace is extremely important inside of your golden package org. It also shows why it gets tied into your customer orgs and their production instances. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the security review process. Why is this exactly related to orgs? Well, the security review is something that all ISVs will go through, and it's best if I talk about this in this presentation. So in order to submit for a security review, you need to spin up a Partner Edition org, again from the Environment Hub. That Partner Edition org will be a direct copy of your golden packaging org, which I mentioned in the last step, but the Partner Developer Edition org contains your application, as well as everything, all the data and all the configuration that's been configured. What the security review team is going to do later on is that they're going to take the credentials that you provide during the security review step. They're going to log into the org, and they're going to test the org and to test the application to make sure the application is functioning properly. And in order to facilitate with the testing process of the application, we also ask that you submit a list of features, as well as a list of API REST endpoints and a sample list of responses and requests, so that our security reviewers know exactly what's going on with your application. And also we ask for you to upload code scanner reports, which basically validate your application to make sure that you aren't doing anything that you aren't supposed to be doing with Salesforce. And finally, if you have any more questions with the security review process, We also offer office hours to our partners. You can sign up for these to get paired directly with a security review expert, and they'll be able to answer any and all questions that you might have with the process. And finally, we also have the Partner Community Chatter security review group that allows you to ask questions to us, to other security reviewers, as well as to other ISVs who've gone through a similar process. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about is delivering trials. What exactly are trials? Well, trials allow your customers to basically test drive your application before they buy it. Because when you buy something, the first thing you want to do is make sure that it works for your business needs and your purposes, which is why we've enabled you to generate TSOs or trial source orgs. And as you can see, TSOs originate directly from your Environment Hub / your TMO, which is your trial management org. And this is spun up, again, from the dropdown that I showed you guys earlier. But TSOs are basically blank orgs that you can then configure templates that get copied into the TSO. So say, for instance, you have a application that's being sold to the healthcare industry. It's going to be very different from an application that's being sold to the manufacturing industry. Even though your application can handle both use cases, you want to create a template that fits those specific needs. And inside of the template, you can add in sample data, configuration, certain metadata types that pertain directly to your customers. And as you can see in the gray, these templates then are used as sources for you to push those trials directly to your trial customers and for them to be able to take a test drive and to see how your application works for their business needs. And finally, this is nearing the end of the presentation. This is the time that I would like to use for a wrap-up and to allow you guys to ask for any questions. So I want to leave you guys with a few resources on how to continue your learning. There are a ton of trailheads available online that allow you to learn more about application development, trial management, as well as application development with SFDX. Obviously, you can't click on these links since we are in a presentation, but this presentation will be uploaded directly to the session record that you can then find inside of your agenda builder. So you can download this, click on each of those links, and go through my presentation again to see if you have anything that you missed. But also, we also have the partner community available. The partner community allows you to ask questions to other partners just like you guys, but also allows you to connect directly with people like me as well as my colleagues. And inside the partner community, you can find specific topics about Salesforce DX. You can find more topics about development and test partner orgs. And you can also join different chatter groups like the Security Review chatter group, as I mentioned earlier. And finally, we also have an ISV Force Guide that's the one-stop shop handbook for all things related to ISVs. This handbook covers everything from packaging development, as well as licensing and distribution. And it basically takes you guys from the beginning to end on how you would be able to create and list your application. And finally, I would like to also encourage you guys to engage with us at the AppExchange Vista. Inside of the AppExchange Vista, you can catch sessions in the theater or share your AppExchange solution ideas to learn more and to basically unlock and basically win an Appy plushie. But also with the AppExchange Vista, you can also participate in the Demo Jam, where you'll be able to see 5 different applications pitched in 3 minutes or less. And basically, the Demo Jam is a great resource for you to learn how other partners are pitching their application. And you can learn a lot more about what type of apps are available on the market, but also you can learn about what makes a successful demo, and you can learn how to win more customers in that way. And finally, I'd like to encourage you guys to connect with us on social media by hashtagging AppyTDX on Twitter, Facebook, and I think we also have a Snapchat account as well. And with that, I'd like to thank all of you for coming to my presentation, but also thank you all for being ISVs and being with us on our awesome ecosystem. Without you, I obviously would not be here, but also we would not have such a diverse and thriving ecosystem on the partner community as well as the Trailblazer community. So thank you very much for attending and for coming to my presentation. Thank you. Yes.
You were talking about the packaging order. Does that give us the ability to push the upgrade to a client?
Yes.
Or do we still have to go to each client to paste your upgrade?
So inside of the packaging org and inside of the publishing console, you can do pushes directly to your customers without them even needing to reconfigure.
So in other words, we don't literally, because right now our team just goes into every client
Yeah.
and pastes, and there's a couple of
You could deploy in waves if you chose to.